This holiday, give the gift that says, let's cancel plans and just lounge. MeUndies has dropped a new holiday collection, and it's made for maximum cozy. We're talking soft as snow ultramodal fabric, festive prints, and loungewear so comfy your couch might get jealous. Onesies, hoodies, joggers, even delightfully quirky holiday designs. You're welcome. Knock out all your holiday gifting needs with deals up to 60% off at MeUndies.com/comfort. Enter promo code COMFORT. That's MeUndies.com/comfort, code COMFORT.
Welcome to the Retreat Leaders Podcast, the show for visionary coaches, healers, wellness pros, and small business owners who aren't just here to host another feel-good getaway, but to build a profitable, impactful retreat business. I'm your host, Shannon Jamail, retreat strategist, business mentor, and owner of a 46-acre retreat center. I've hosted over 100 retreats around the world, and I've made every mistake so you don't have to. Each week, we'll dive into the mindset, marketing, money, business, and mechanics behind sold-out, profitable retreats. Plus, hear from expert guests who are walking the talk. Whether you're planning your first retreat or scaling your 100th, you're in the right place. Welcome to the show. Hey guys, welcome back to the Retreat Leaders Podcast. It's Shannon. Before I go into our topic for today and introduce our guest, I just want to bug you guys and let you know that one, I'm on YouTube too. So you're listening to me right now, probably on some podcast platform of some sort, whether it's Apple or Spotify, whatever it is, but also I'm on YouTube. So feel free to grab that link in the show notes so that you can see our beautiful faces and watch us. And then also just a big thank you. We recently hit the top 2% of podcasts globally, all across the board. And that just means the world to me. And the only way that can happen is because you guys are tuning in. So thank you for that so much. Now I want to introduce our lovely guest today. I am so excited, although I have to pick a bone with you, Remy, because do you know that the last time I saw you was in 2022?
I know. I was just thinking about that. I think it's time.
2022. Yeah.
I know.
Well, welcome, Remy Gibbs, to the show. I'm so excited you are here.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. It was good to dust off my mic and come and sit with you today.
Yes, I love it. So Remy and I have kept in contact fairly regularly. I love her newsletters that she sends out, and she probably maybe peruses mine.
But I read them. I do.
Yay. She came to one of my retreats back in 2022 here at the ranch. And Remy, I was thinking about it. I'm like, 2022, we barely had a few things here at the ranch at that time when you first came.
Yeah, but it was still very nicely pulled together because you had the yurts then, which I stayed in with one of my girlfriends. And you know what I remember? I'll tell you my two biggest takeaways. One, it was the first freeze of the season.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
And none of the heaters were working and there was all kinds of issues, but it ended up being fine because your guy that was on site was able to fix them so it turned out great. And it was amazing to be able to sit in the hot tub, and it's such a great way to make connections with the other ladies that were there. So that was really neat. But I wanted to mention one of the biggest now it's all coming back to me, right? I'm remembering all the meeting the horses and the dogs and the chickens and all the fun stuff. But we sat in and I don't remember exactly what you call it, but we'll call it your hall. Not the dining hall, but where
1860?
we came together. Yes.
Yes.
And the conversation was around forgiveness. And I was in a position where both my parents had passed, and I'd mostly forgiven my dad, but I have never been able to forgive my mom. And listening to you talk, I was like, well, what's the difference here when we're talking about acceptance versus forgiveness? And because I felt like I'd accepted it, but I hadn't moved to the next level. So anyway, that left me with, really something to go home and think about and try to figure out, how do I get to the next step? And eventually I did, but you were the catalyst. So I give you that.
Remy, I actually have full body chills because I feel like I totally remember this conversation. It was in my stress reduction workshop. And one of the things I talked about, and I do talk about in that workshop, is it's sometimes a subconscious thing even, but it's in our body when we're not forgiving. And And you're right. The first step is acceptance and forgiveness. And the second step of that process is the full forgiveness. And I feel like I remember that conversation because I think you even asked, "What's the difference?"
I
Like,
did.
yeah, in the workshop with the other ladies, and there was such great conversation about it. So
Yeah.
I
Well, I
totally
was
forgot that.
stuck. Yeah, I was totally stuck on I can just accept it and move on, right? Well,
Yeah,
you can't really. If you
yeah,
want to be free from it,
correct.
you have to be able to let it go. And the only way to let it go is to forgive. And I think the way you talk about forgiveness has really become part of my practice too, how I teach people as well, that I think it's such a huge thing to say, okay, you're not saying this person is allowed back into your life. You're not
Right.
saying that what you did was okay. It's really just saying, okay, I'm going to let this go and not let it be part of my problem anymore or part of my suffering, really is probably a better way to say it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I did not even expect this conversation to go this way, but it's so yummy. One of the things that I really tell people when you know you've hit that forgiveness space is when you don't wish it was different.
Yeah.
And that's fucking hard. You know
It's
what I
fucking
mean?
hard. Yeah.
That's when you know. Like I share my personal story in the stress reduction workshop of what I've done and what I've experienced and where I went from anger and almost hate even into this state of I don't wish that those things didn't happen to me anymore. Like I genuinely don't wish it. And which this is a little crazy, I'm super grateful that those terrible things happened because now I'm sitting here with you, Remy, and I'm sitting with all these women that would
Yes.
not have happened. I would
No.
not have met you and all these incredible women if those terrible things hadn't happened to me by terrible people, or we'll just call them people who were making terrible choices, whatever. And so, wow, I'm so glad you shared that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, no, that was huge. And the whole tools in the toolbox part of that, right? People do the
Yeah.
best they can with what they have.
Yep.
And that's where our job comes in, and we become the healers and we become the people that teach people how to have better tools in their toolbox, right?
That's right. That's right. And that's what you do as well, which we're going to dig into that because I'm excited to talk about that. I'm
Yeah.
in the season of what you do. Um,
Yes.
I'm so glad because listen, it's not all stars and stripes over here. I never pretend like it's all rainbows. I totally remember that freeze and holy shitballs.
Yeah.
Twice the ranch has gone through a terrible, terrible freeze. And if you're not familiar with Texas, for those of you that are listening, we're not equipped for freezes. Okay. We're not the East Coast. Our
No.
buildings and structures are not designed, nothing's buried underground. That's just not how it's built here. It's not just us. Like, that's just how Texas is built.
Yeah.
So, anytime there's a massive freeze, our power gets locked up. And sometimes the entire grid, not Retreat Ranch grid, the city, county, state grid gets locked up. And you're like, shit.
Now what? Yeah.
And so you learn to pivot. You learn to have lots of extra blankets. You learn to have even electric blankets, which sounds funny, but some of them, believe it or not, can be charged. And then you have hot tubs and saunas that don't require necessarily electric, like our wood burning sauna, which is like fabulous. Let's go warm up
Yeah.
in there. And the good news is everything always gets resolved and usually fairly quickly. Thank goodness we weren't even open for the really, really bad freeze here that lasted like 10 days where there was
Mm.
zero power. Like that just
Yeah.
is not, those are catastrophes that you just can't really plan for that. That just is what it is. But when these types of things happen, our electric grid is pretty good that within an hour or so, things will come back online and then you're good to go. But I totally remember that. And I remember Josh coming out several times being like, okay, let's figure this out. Let's see what's
Yeah.
going on, and get
Yeah.
you guys comfortable because I don't care how amazing you are as a retreat leader. Nobody want to be frozen. Doesn't nobody want to be sweating their balls off unless you've signed up for a retreat that you know you're going to be camping in the jungle in the heat. Well, then that's on
Right.
you. But otherwise, you want to make sure that you're fairly comfortable. And so I totally forgot about that. Let me ask you this, Remy.
Yeah.
What made you sign up for a retreat with me? Do you remember it all?
So yours was actually the second one I had been on.
Okay.
The first one was the year prior, and I was in meltdown mode. For that one, my husband had, and I'm share my secrets. I talk about all of them too. So, open book. But so my husband was an alcoholic, and he was at he had to be put into rehab.
Mm,
And I was at that point where I was like, okay, I am falling apart now. I, wasn't doing the things I needed to take care of me because I was
mm,
all focused on him. And so that's what drove me initially to go find something to help me recharge.
yeah.
So your year, so my girlfriend and I at that time had decided that every year we would try to do something, whether it was a retreat or travel or whatever. So
Yeah.
your retreat was our second year, and it was much closer for both of us because I was living in South Texas and she was sorry, way South Texas down on the border, and she was in Houston. So your place was a great meeting location for us. And it gave us enough time to be together as friends and not spending so much time in session after session after session. But at the same time, the sessions were enough to keep us thinking, intrigued, and healing and feeling good. So that's why I chose you for location and for what it offered.
For the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because over the years I've adjusted, right? We all have. I'm sure you do in what you do.
Yep.
And when I first launched retreats, I literally had it, and a lot of hosts tend to do this when they first start, is I had it like scheduled from the moment you fucking woke up till you went to bed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like there was this undercurrent expectation, like you got to come to everything. I mean, if there's a yoga class, you got to come. If there's this, you got to come. You got to get everything out of it. I need you guys to come, right? And so there was this like expectation there. And I've adjusted it a lot over the years. And part of that is just me, who I am and what I like and what feels good to me. And what feels good to me is having a nice big gap in the day so that there's time to, I don't care what you do, rest. There's integration time, there's processing, there's connection time with the other women, there's just relaxing in a hammock or the hot tub or whatever. Like it's just this downtime, right?
Right.
But I also design my retreats where it's this whole do you boo schedule. If you don't want to get up early and go to sunrise yoga, please don't force yourself to do that. If you would rather sleep in because that's what your body needs and that's what you need on your retreat, that's what you need to do. And there will be so much grace and love for when we see you, right? There's none of this like, oh, Remy, why didn't you come to yoga or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No, and
that's
I think
it.
that's key. What does your
Yeah.
body need? Right.
Yeah, you're showing up there with a need. There is a need. And so, for some, the need is just simply to relax. Others,
Yeah.
there's this need to like let go of big heaviness. Others, there's a need to get a tool or two so that they could take it back home. Like everybody shows up with their need, right? And the best way I have found to meet that need is for them to join where it feels aligned. If you want to
Yeah.
come to the sound bath, come. If you want to come to the yoga, come. If you want to come to the mindful journaling session, come. If you want to come to stress reduction, come. If you want to just come to the meals, do that too. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you just do you. And so I really appreciate you saying that the agenda and the flexibility in the agenda allowed, that was something that was appealing to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to touch on something else that you brought up with because we're talking to retreat leaders primarily. So I
Yeah,
think recovery is everything. When we were talking about the freeze and how do you recover, right? So things happen, shit happens, right? We can curse on this show. So shit
absolutely.
happens. And so it's how do you recover from that? And that's what people will remember more than anything else. How did they recover? Okay, they did. So everything was still fine. Sure, we had a hiccup. So what? Right? So I
Yeah.
think that's a huge thing to remember.
I'm glad you said that. My friend and fellow retreat leader, Erin Haig, she just did a post recently about there's no such retreat where there's nothing that's going to go, like, there's absolutely nothing going to go wrong, right? There's just
Perfection is
not.
impossible. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And we're also dealing with a lot of different personalities that are coming, right? And so there's no such thing. So the point that you just said and the point that Aaron made was, what do you do as a leader when it does go wrong? What's your reaction? What's your response to that? Because that is the part they'll remember. Yeah, you remember that the heaters had a problem, that there was a freeze, that there was electric issue, but I think what you really remember is that Josh and I were like, how can we make this right as
Yes,
soon as
absolutely.
possible?
Yeah, you were super responsive and let's fix it and let's make everything okay. And that is it. So,
Yeah.
but and that's I mean, and I think that's key for everyone that if nothing else, stay calm. Stay
Yes.
calm.
And
Yeah,
even if you can bring humor into it, even
even
better.
better. Yeah.
If you can't, and it's appropriate. I realize there may be some very extreme one-offs of things that could go wrong that the humor may not be appropriate, but calmness absolutely is crucial. There's no doubt about it. And before we move into what you're doing, because I really think that that's also relevant for retreat leaders that are listening that are either working with the demographic that you do or in this season of life that
Yeah.
you work with, is girl, it's been too long.
Yeah, it's been
It's
too long.
it's been too long. Okay, first of all, the ranch is like 3, 4 times the size of when you came in 2022. But
Yeah.
also, we've got Tulum and we've got France that's coming up. And so, girl, I just need to see your face again. So I'm
I
just
need to make
throwing
it
that out there.
happen.
Yes.
Yeah, I need to make it happen. I have moved now, so it's not, well, actually, it's probably about the same distance, honestly, but I'm just coming from the north instead of the south. So,
Yeah, yeah, girl, come on. We can
yeah.
get you here. We're going to get you here. All right, Remy, I want you, first of all, thank you for all of that. I love just you sharing your heart. By the way, no, we didn't rehearse a damn thing. All I said was, let's talk about your experience as a guest. So this was purely coming from Remy's heart, and I really
Yeah,
appreciate that, Remy.
absolutely.
And then now I really want to talk about, especially because I am in this season
Hmm.
and I work with women in this season. And let's talk about what you do. Tell us what you do and what your work entails.
Yeah, so I'm a life coach and I'm certified, and I'm also certified in positive psychology. So, background wise, a lot of my background was actually in the events world. The retreat thing and all that I get to, and marketing and all that. So, I have all of those elements, I guess. But from what I'm working on now is really focused on women in midlife. And I even wrote a book about it called Renovate Your Reality. And as we hit this time of life, so much is going on. Not only are we being hit with hormones, but part of that is so confusing because maybe somebody talked to us about hot flashes, but what about all the rest of it,
Mm,
right? The brain fog, the aches, the pains, gosh, there's just so much there, right? Our bodies just aren't working necessarily the way we think they should. And it's really interesting, what progesterone and estrogen and testosterone, yes, we have testosterone in our systems, how they affect us.
yeah.
Um, and think just different things really become very important, right? Where habits, the morning habits, I think are key at this point in our lives, and trying to make sure that we are doing the best we can for ourselves.
Hmm.
And it's, watch your drinking, it's don't smoke, but those are the big things. So the smaller things that make the real habits become, are you moving your body and how are you moving your body? Once you reach 40 and beyond, we need to make sure we're adding in weights and strength training. Are we getting enough protein? What are we filling our brains with?
Hmm.
Because if it's all negative all the time, that's not a good place to be. So, how do
Correct.
we change that, right? And some of the simple things are meditation. Sometimes it's walking, but a lot of it is just listening to ourselves and being able to change our thought processes. So
Hmm.
instead of, this is just a simple example, but if you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, I'm fat, how is that helping yourself? It's not, right? So can you then say, okay, how do I help myself not be fat? So then you start doing the things we talked about, moving the body, doing the weights, eating the right foods. How are we nourishing ourselves? And then how do we talk to ourselves? Can we
Yeah.
say, I'm doing the best I can? I'm doing the things I need to do to be better.
Yeah.
Instead of saying I'm fat, I'm doing the best I can. It changes everything.
Hmm.
So those are kind of the simple thought processes and how you start to change how you look at the world.
Yeah.
But it's conscious, right? It's not, you have to be conscious. You have to catch your thoughts to be able to change them. So, I mean, there's so many pieces here, but the big parts that I really focus on in the midlife game is purpose, because we'll find a lot of people, and this may or may not apply to your listening audience, but it will apply to your clients, your job.
Hmm.
If our focus as we age becomes more on meaning and purpose, how do we find that?
Hmm.
And sometimes it means a huge job change, a huge career change, because we need to go after that. Sometimes it means starting a business. Sometimes it doesn't mean that. Sometimes it means shifting somewhere else in your life.
Hmm.
If all you do is work and your whole identity is attached to work, how do we change that and say, okay, how do I become part of something bigger than myself? So these are the things. So it's working on building healthy habits, building a joy practice,
Mm.
and it's a lot of habit building. Being accountable to someone helps people stay on track. And then it's also really just, how do you be authentic?
Hmm.
How do you figure out really what your values and your belief systems and your strengths are? So many of us don't know.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's this piece, and this is where a lot of times it'll get kind of turned over to a therapist, or some of it, like you. I mean, you have that background, but I think this Brene Brown talks about this perfectly, and I'm not going to say it as eloquently as she does, but um, the idea that we come to this point, and I think all of us go through it, where we look at ourselves and we look at our lives and we're like, okay, this isn't working anymore. The things that we think about and the way that we beat ourselves up and the stuff that happened to us in our past bubbles up.
Yeah.
And how
Yes.
are you going to deal with it? Right. So you have to learn those healthy habits on how to deal with it, how to process it. Because if you're stuck on drinking or you're doing drugs, you're going to be stuck on that the rest of your life, if that's your coping mechanism.
Yeah.
So, how do we build healthy coping mechanisms? And then, so, again, these are all the parts and pieces I think that we deal with as we move into this stage of life. And one of the things I love most to say is, we all have different versions of what we think about menopause and what it means to us. Some people think, okay, now I'm dried up, I'm no good, I have no point in being here anymore, right?
Yeah.
But if we look at it from this perspective, and that there's only 6 species that go through menopause and survive, and we're one of those, what does that mean?
Mm.
That means our job changes. We're not here to now make more kids. We're here to become teachers and to be
Mm.
the wise woman. And that's our jobs at this point after menopause.
Ooh, girl. Yes. Yes, I love this so much. Two things popped up for me as you were talking about all the things. First of all, for retreat leaders that are listening, we wanted this show purposely to be two-part, kind of just give a guest perspective and how I've changed as a retreat leader and that it's okay to change and just what that looks like. And just what a guest perspective looks like. And by the way, you should be talking to your guests about their experience on the retreat. The other side of it is just women in this stage of life, and you may be serving these women. They may be showing up on your retreats and they're having these types of conversations. And even if this is not your exact demographic, usually there's one or two that do pop up in the scene, right? You might be dealing with a different generation, but one or two of these people, these women that are in the stage are coming and they're having these conversations. And I think one thing that stands out to me, Remy, is community.
Yeah,
Women in this stage really need community.
they
Like
absolutely do.
we do at all stages, right? But this stage, man, menopause and midlife fucks with your head. The emotions and your brain and your thoughts are different. They are different.
They are. And it's a great, being in a retreat, it's a great place to be able to talk about these things. And they actually say that all the research shows that having a network, strong relationships, whether it's family or friends, is key to happiness, especially in
Mhm.
this phase. So,
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, that's super relevant in the blue zones. If you're familiar
yes.
with blue zone stuff, check it out. I highly recommend it. But that is literally the number one thing is
Yep.
community. And
Yep.
so women in any stage of life, but we're talking about the menopause midlife, community is so important. And that is can
Absolutely.
absolutely be found on retreats. Actually, I think it's one of the most powerful places to find community is on retreats, but also working with someone that helps you through it, like a Remy, who
Yeah.
can be there with you, who can walk you through why you're thinking the way you're thinking or why you're feeling the way you're feeling. Because sometimes, like you said, historically, the world is more like it's a hot flash, and that's pretty much what you're going to go through, and your
Yeah.
period stop. Uh, it's so much more than that.
So much
And
more.
you will feel alone if that's what you're thinking. You're like, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel extra anxious or extra sad or hopeless, even? Or like, there's all these things that do pop
Oh,
up that
yeah.
you're like, what in the world? Like, it makes me think, Remy, me and my best friend, we do a few times a week, we're in our training schedule for our half marathon. So we talk. She's in the other side of the country. So we're talking while we are doing our training. And we were saying, like, it wasn't that long ago, Remy, that when women were going through menopause, that they were locked up in psychiatric hospitals and that they were
Well,
given shock treatments and lobotomies and told that they were insane.
it's true. Well, I think still a lot of doctors are like, here, have an antidepressant.
Hmm.
That's not what's going on here. It's low estrogen, people. So
Yeah.
know that. I mean, and I
Yeah.
think that's a huge thing too, is if your doctor isn't able to effectively help you, keep looking. keep looking, because there are menopause specialists out there in every area. So it's definitely something to look for, because you're right. I know my anxiety's been weird. It just creeps up and I'm like, what's going on? Why?
Yeah.
I don't have anything to be anxious about.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Like you get to this season of life and you're feeling these emotions on overdrive that maybe you've had tiny little spurts of it throughout your lifetime,
Sure.
but now they're literally on overdrive to where it's very hard to make decisions. Like you talked about, there's brain fog and there's even decision fatigue, and then there's just you're not capable of it because of what's happening in your body. And so anyway, again, going on retreat, working with someone like Remy, just not staying alone is so important. And if your demographic includes people in midlife and you yourself are not as educated in this field yet, having someone like Remy even speak at your retreats, come and be
which
a
I'd
guest
love to
speaker.
do. Absolutely.
Yeah. And talk about what they're feeling and what are some tools in your toolbox that you can put together, and helping to create the community that absolutely will help you through this season of life so that you can flourish through it rather than sink and drown in it, because it can definitely be super overwhelming.
It really
Well,
can.
thank you, Remy. I will include your info in the show notes, but if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, do you want to just shout out your website or anything?
Yep. So it's just renovatedrealities.com.
Perfect. It will be in the show notes too. I loved talking to you, Remy, and I'm so going to hold you to coming back to the ranch or to somewhere. And so expect me to bug the shit out of you.
Do it.
I will. Thank you, love.
All right. Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks for tuning in to the Retreat Leaders podcast. If you love this episode, please make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your retreat besties. Want more support? Grab free resources at theretreatleadersplaybook.com. Until next time, lead boldly, serve deeply, and retreat profitably.
That is an apple. That is new ice-cold Fireball blazing apple. Crispy. Juicy. Like bobbing for apples in a hot tub full of Fireball. The original taste of Fireball cinnamon whiskey, now laced with apples. New Fireball blazing apple.
Please drink responsibly. Whiskey with natural cinnamon flavor, 33% alcohol by volume, produced by Sazerac, Louisville, Kentucky.
Marketing is hard. But I'll tell you a little secret. It doesn't have to be. Let me point something out. You're listening to a podcast right now, and it's great. You love the host. You seek it out and download it. You listen to it while driving, working out, cooking, even going to the bathroom. Podcasts are a pretty close companion. And this is a podcast ad. Did I get your attention? You can reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience and their favorite podcasts with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com, that's LIBSYN, ads.com today.